Cool. So next up, we have Holly. Holly's going to be giving us an intro to remarketing. Holly is a paid media account director here at Anicca. Again, focusing on the PPC side of things, but she also does dabble a bit in the social side of things as well. Holly is a marketing and retailing graduate from in 2014. She started working at Anicca straight from uni, so she's been with us for a while and has worked her way up and obviously learnt a lot working with us as well, so that's great. And she works with a range of clients that include e-commerce and lead generation clients, helping them to achieve their digital advertising goals. So she's going to definitely be the expert on the remarketing side of things here. So I'm going to hand over to Holly now, and then she can tell you a bit more about remarketing. Let's just double check. Let me double check. It seems to be looks like a bit of another technical issue again. No problem. We'll just get back up and start things again with Holly. Still got the option to complete our marketing survey. If you are able to, that'd be great. Just put it up on the pop-ups now. There's also a prize draw, so there might be a chance that you can win a nice prize as well, so even more reason to do it. There we go, she's with us. Okay then, and I'll hand over to Holly.
So yeah, I'm Holly. Like Jess says, I've been with Anicca for a long while now, since I graduated, and yeah, specialise in the paid search side of things. But I've recently, well, I say recently, the last 2 years, I've started to dip into the social side of things as well. So today's talk is going to be more around kind of marketing across kind of all the different platforms that we've got available to us. So just looking at a beginner's guide to that to get you all started. So it's going to be looking at what exactly remarketing is, who you can remarket to, where you can remarket, how to get set up, and just some kind of top tips and best practices, really. So let's jump in. So in terms of what is remarketing, so remarketing and retargeting are two terms that you probably hear interchangeably, and they very much mean the same thing. And really, remarketing is all about the process of re-engaging customers or users that have interacted with your brand in one way or the other, and then delivering personalized ads back to them. So it's looking at a couple of different concepts, but it generally centers around either users who have been to your website. So this could be kind of any visit in general. So it could be a visit to a specific page. It could be users who have checked out, any kind of visit, and we'll touch onto how we can kind of narrow down on that later. It could be users that have taken, like I say, a certain action on your website. It might be users that have viewed one of your videos. So that's more of a kind of in-platform action. And then you've also got things like users who've engaged with your social channels and users in an email list. So it could be your past customers, it could be lapsed customers, anything like that. And what happens is, for the kind of website and platform based users, these users are tracked when they take certain actions and they're dropped into audience lists. So that's either just kind of general platform tracking, which happens, or it can be kind of pixel based and cookie based. And what happens is they get dropped into here. Everything's anonymous, so you don't know which user is which. All you know is that our user took the action that you've defined. So all the data is anonymous. You can't tap in and look and say, oh look, Jess viewed my website today. It's nothing like that. It's all anonymous, but you just know that somebody viewed the website. So in terms of remarketing is really great to help support really all aspects of the funnel. So traditionally it's used to kind of retain or re-engage and get users from the point of acquisition to a conversion. But actually, you can also use it to acquire new prospects. So one of the ways you can do this is looking at platform engagements. So people who are actively, engaging with your posts. It might be a post that's popped up through kind of one of their friends' profiles that they haven't yet been interacted with your brand. They haven't been to your website yet. So this user is a new prospect. But also in the platforms, and we'll touch on this in more detail a little bit later, is you can create lookalike audiences from your base lists. And these lookalike audiences, essentially what the platforms do is they look at your original list, so users who have been to your website, and they go out and they find other users who fit the same profile, the same demographics, the same behavior patterns, and essentially they become a new prospecting list. But the really great thing about these lists are they look exactly like your other customers or your website visitors. So that's about acquiring prospects. The other angle is re-engaging an acquired prospect. So someone who's already been to your website, they're familiar with your brand, and it's all about turning those prospects into a customer. So how can you get them back to the site? What information did they miss the first time that you can give them that would encourage them to make a conversion? And then the final one is about retaining existing customers and also re-engaging potentially lost or lapsed customers. So through this, and it's more so through your kind of email database, but you can use kind of pixel data as well. You can target these broken down into segments, and you can identify what it is that the message that you need to do. It might be that they're close for a renewal. It might be that they haven't renewed, or they launched a free trial, but they didn't then sign up for the product. So it's about identifying different sets of audiences that you can target with unique messaging. So in terms of how it works, I've touched on this a little bit. So there's three main options at the moment. This is likely to develop over kind of the course of probably the next 12 months, but definitely the next few years. So at the moment, there is cookie-based tracking. So this is looking at website visitors. It could be users to your app as well if you've got an app, and it's particularly looking at on-site actions. So cookie-based, some are third-party. The majority are moving on to first-party now to try and kind of get around kind of the cookie blocking and that side of things. And then the other options are in-platform interactions. So these are tracked directly within the platform. So things like video views and page engagement. And then the final one is uploading of customer data. So this is your data that you've collected. Obviously with this, just make sure everything's kind of GDPR compliant, or whatever kind of location that you're going into, just making sure you're compliant with that. But it's looking at different types of email databases. So it could be your past customers, if that's someone you want to re-engage, but it could also be newsletter signups, like I say, anyone who's booked a demo, anyone who's started a free trial, and kind of lapsed customers or anything like that as well. So that's kind of a bit of a background on what remarketing is and how it works a little bit. So now we're going to look at who you can target through remarketing. And it's quite kind of an open and broad pool. If you can kind of come up with a list and create the list, then the likelihood is you can recapture and retarget to them. So some of the basic audience types center around these core themes. So it could be visitors to your website, and visitors to your website could include people who viewed a specific product or people who viewed a specific category page. So on your website, so if you're e-commerce, it might be that you sell seasonal products. So you only want to kind of target people who are looking at kind of a garden range, for example. Or it might be that the user has interacted with your site in a different kind of way. So they might have downloaded an asset. So if you've got PDFs, ebooks, white papers, anything like that, they're kind of a much more soft sell than asking someone to sign up and register in the first instance. So what you can do is you can capture the users who are downloading these assets, drop them into a list. Once you know they've kind of engaged, they're having a read through your content, it's going to be a much easier sell to get them then to sign up or kind of register or purchase. So there's that angle. One of the most common and kind of most valuable ones is users who add to a cart and don't convert, so your cart abandonments. So you can re-engage these across kind of all the platforms. People who convert, and this sits hand in hand with your email database, so your past customers, all the other ones that I've mentioned, and then people who are following or engaging with your Facebook and Instagram pages. So this might be people liking your posts, people following your pages, and then what sits with that also is people who are watching videos. So with the videos, it could be people who are watching specific videos, or people who are watching all your any of your videos, so you might not be specific about which video you want them to watch. And then in the likes of Facebook and Instagram, you can also narrow down to people who've watched a certain percentage of the video, so you know that they really did engage, and they sat through the duration and kind of took in kind of the message that you're putting out there. So once you've got kind of an idea of who it is you want to target, you also need to understand where you can use this audience, and where are they going to be and where do they sit. So in terms of remarketing, it's a really kind of great opportunity to, I guess, engage all platforms and utilize these that are really at your fingertips, really. So there's techniques across kind of a multitude of platforms that you can use. So it can be search based. So when I say search based, this is in platforms like Google or Bing, or even YouTube to some degree, where the user is actively going out and searching for your product or service again. And at this point, if you know they've been to your website, or if you know they've interacted with your brand before, why wouldn't you want to put an ad out there in front of them and maybe tailor the messaging a little bit more, bid a little bit higher for them because you know that they know who you are, and actually try and re-engage and convert this user into a customer. And then the other side of it is more looking at kind of contextual and placement based, and thinking about, rather than the user is actively going out and searching for you again, that you're going after them when they're browsing the web, when they're in kind of their social channels, and you're thinking more specifically about the audience and kind of where they are, rather than what they're searching for. So the majority of digital platforms these days will offer some sort of remarketing capabilities. So we've got the ones here like the likes of LinkedIn, Facebook, Google Ads, YouTube, Pinterest even. So we've got all these platforms, but on top of this, we've also got things like native platforms such as Taboola, Outbrain, and as well things like if you're an e-commerce retailer and you're selling on Amazon through Seller Central and the ads platform there, they also offer remarketing capabilities as well. So it's something that's really kind of embedded across all of the digital channels. And what I would say is some of the platforms, they're more advanced in terms of what you can do than others, but they all offer some degree of remarketing to kind of re-engage those customers. So in terms of the platforms and how you kind of go about, I guess, reaching and putting the message out there, there's two sides to it. So there's the in-platform, which is kind of self-serve, and this is, you know, going directly into the likes of Google Ads, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and running ads through each individual platform. And this is kind of the intro level if, you know, you're just starting out, or you know specifically where you want to target and you're okay to go in and you kind of set them up yourselves. And then there's the other side of this, which is kind of a little bit more advanced, would be the third party and site served examples. So things like Perfect Audience, AdRoll, Criteo, Acquisio, where essentially what they do is they go out to a multitude of platforms all through kind of one interface, so everything's kind of handled within there. But with those, the difference between those and the platforms is in those you'll also kind of pay different kind of fees on top of what you're paying per kind of click or per 1,000 impression, depending on how you're bidding. So we know who we're going to target. Well, we know who we can target, we know where we can target, but why would we want to retarget? So for kind of remarketing, there's a whole host of reasons why you would want to use it. I've pulled out some of them here. So it helps you to increase brand recognition. So it's just about kind of cementing and re-engaging those users. If they've been to your site, it might be that there was, I guess, a lukewarm prospect. It might be that they weren't in the right mind frame, or they weren't at a point where they wanted to purchase what you was offering, but they were interested enough to make the click. So it's looking at keeping that brand reinforcement as they move across the web, keeping your brand familiar to them, and then when they do come to a point at which they want to convert, then actually you're there and you're fresh in their mind still. And that sits nicely with kind of the second point of guiding users through the funnel. So if you start with a fairly broad marketing campaign for a specific audience in Facebook, for example, it's not necessarily going to be a particular warm audience, and it might need nurturing a little bit. So what remarketing does is it gives you the unique opportunity to do this as they're kind of the user is going about kind of their day-to-day activity through the web and on different social platforms. It helps to lower your cost per acquisition. So generally, what you'll see is that remarketing activity has a much higher conversion rate, and it might not necessarily be a last click conversion rate. It might be attributed conversions, but it does help to increase your conversion rates overall and lowers your cost per conversion. And on the next slide, you'll see a stat from Kenshu, which indicates that actually there's a 20%, can be on average a 26% increase in conversion rates through remarketing activity. There's also the fact that actually 90% of, well, over 90% of users will leave a site without converting. So when users are kind of going about, if they're kind of e-commerce based particularly, they're going to shop around. It's kind of the nature of the world and the landscape that we kind of live in, and yes, there is going to be, you know, some of these that just aren't interested in what you have to offer, but there's also 90% of the other people that if you could just kind of chip off 10% of those, that's actually a really big kind of increase on your conversion rates and helping to lower your cost per acquisition and your return on ad spend. So you can use remarketing to not only re-engage these users, but understand why they left your site, what pages were they leaving on, and from that you can address potential concerns that these users might have. You can reinforce different messaging, and you can also take the opportunity to test different landing pages and different calls to action. So if the user landed directly on kind of a sign-up page, that might have been too kind of hard of a sell for them. It might be easier to, you know, land them on an ebook or a white paper and kind of bring them in and move them through the funnel that way. So there's different ways you can re-engage these users and kind of trickle them through and get them back in the funnel. Remarketing, it can be used across nearly all industries. So there are some kind of restrictions in place for the likes of healthcare, just due to personal attributes. So some healthcare is allowed, but you just have to be careful with kind of wording on your site and exactly what it is you're remarketing to. So it's things like that could be, I guess, a problem if you was on a shared computer. So it could be a medical complaint that if you was using a work computer, you might not want your boss to know about, something like that. Google and Facebook and kind of all the platforms, they're quite hot on those kind of things in terms of that, but generally across majority of other industries, it's applicable in one way or the other. And then finally, it just helps not only to increase sales, but also to increase retention. So I touched on it a little bit earlier, but if you've got people with kind of annual subscriptions, you might want to run a campaign that's going to kind of pop up every kind of year that kind of just reminds them to renew. Or it might be that, like I say, a user signed up for a free trial, 14-day free trial, and at the end of that 14-day, they haven't converted into an actual customer. So it's just about capturing those kind of people and re-engaging them and understanding why they might not be converting. So like I say, retargeting cart abandonment can increase conversion rate up to 26%. So looking at those users who have really engaged and interacted on your website, they were interested. So at that point, why did they not convert? And remarketing is a way to kind of, I guess, get to the bottom of that. It might be that if they dropped off at shipping, were your shipping costs unexpected? And if so, are you in a position to be able to remarket to them and offer this user free shipping if that gets the sale through the door? So it's looking at things like that. So not only looking at who the audience is, but kind of the pages that they're dropping off of and what they did before that. So the path to conversion as well. And on top of kind of the conversion side of things, retargeting can also lift ad engagement rates by up to 400%. So users who are familiar with your brand, they're much more likely to kind of engage with the content that you're putting out there. And for some instances, so for example, like Anicca, we're running a survey at the moment. If we wanted kind of higher engagement, we're going to go after people and target people who have already engaged with us in kind of one way or the other, because they're much more likely to kind of interact and fill out the survey. So thinking about things like that and identifying who you are, what your objective is, and who is going to be the right audience to target. So when it comes to creating your audiences, I've got kind of a quick breakdown for each of the platforms. So Google Ads and YouTube all sit within kind of the Google Ads interface. And here there's options to create based on website visitors, app users, YouTube, so people who've viewed videos, and customer lists. So you can upload your own email database. For Google Ads, you can also create lists in Google Analytics. So these can then be imported, and that just gives you a bit more flexibility to target based on kind of specific behaviors on the website. So people who have visited the site maybe more than twice, people who spent more than 5 minutes on the website, and you can also create it based on specific traffic sources or campaigns. So if you're using UTM parameters in your Facebook activity or your kind of Pinterest activity, you can pick up those in the URLs and bring them back through into Google Ads. Lists in Google, depending on which list they are, some are eligible. So customer lists, for example, can only be eligible on Google-owned placements. So Google Search, YouTube, and Gmail. But others are eligible to run across display as well. Then in Facebook, similar story. The only additional one in Facebook is you can do it based on platform engagement. So people who are engaging with your Facebook or Instagram page. And you can also, similar to what you can do in analytics, you can put some kind of behavior-based filters on. And these become really useful when we talk about lookalike and similar audiences. So you can create audiences based on users who spent a certain amount. So you're looking at the high value customers. And when you go on to create lookalike audiences, these are the types of users you want to find more of, essentially. And Twitter is one of the more limited platforms in terms of remarketing capabilities. So it doesn't really have kind of in-platform engagements. You can target based on web visitors. You can still upload an email database, and you can look at users who engaged on your app. But it does lack that kind of platform engagement. So people who are maybe tweeting and following you, it doesn't have those metrics that you can narrow in on. In LinkedIn's probably on the flip side of that, one of the more kind of wide-ranging ones, particularly obviously if you're B2B. It's got some great kind of functionality. So similar to the others, you've got website visitors, you've got email database, you've got video views. But with the platform engagements, it can be things like people who have visited your company page. So they're really kind of looking into who you are, they're doing kind of their research. Or people who have filled out kind of lead gen forms and responded to one of your events. So anything like that. And again, you can create lookalike audiences within LinkedIn as well. Pinterest, for kind of, particularly for any kind of e-commerce based one. Again, similar to the others, website visitors, email database, but you can also engage with people who are engaging with your pins, so people pinning them, sharing them, anything like that. And again, you can narrow down on specific sets of behavior. And then just circling back finally to Google Analytics. So like I say, with Google Analytics, not only can you create them in and import them into Google Ads. But you can also create the lists to analyze these audiences within GA itself as well. So creating audiences based off of people who are viewing certain pages, people are coming back more frequently. You can analyze this, and this can help to kind of influence your marketing decisions. So top tips and takeaways. So generally, like I say, what you want to do is you want to be identifying what your objectives are. You want to know who you want to talk to and what you're going to say. So remarketing, like we say, it's great for keeping your brand front of mind. When you are considering where you want your ads to appear and what platforms you're going to go on, just consider kind of exclusions of what we'd say bad content. So it could be that, so Google, for example, has got filters on things that have kind of sexually suggestive, things that have got profanity. It's also got topic exclusions. So if it's anything to do with kind of politics or anything like that, you might not want your brand sat with a certain kind of viewpoint, because you never know how kind of extreme, I guess, it's going to be. You want to segment your audiences and campaigns based on individual lists. So break out people who have added to the cart. These are warm audiences from people who have just viewed your website or people who have just engaged with your page. Think about how frequent, what your frequency cap is going to be. So you can cap how many times a user is going to see your ad. Generally, you'd want it 2 to 5 times within a week. That's kind of average. You don't want kind of any more than that. You don't want to kind of saturate and annoy the audience. And also think about how long you want the user to stay in your list. So it could be that if you've got a 14-day free trial, the list would expire after 30 days, because you don't want to keep showing to the users after that period. They're just not interested. In terms of best practices, just make sure that the ad aligns with your on-site branding. The user needs to be familiar with what they're seeing. Try and adjust your creative for the different audiences. So if they filled out an ebook demo, kind of pull snippets out of that ebook or out of the white paper that will resonate with that audience. You can test between static and animated ads, particularly because not all placements will accept an animated ad. So it's good to have both. Always develop ads in different sizes. This just helps to kind of increase your placement options. I would always suggest to incorporate a call to action. What do you want the user to do from the ad? And test different messaging, particularly depending on kind of the list duration. It could be kind of that you get more urgent as kind of the list kind of narrows on. And trial and test different landing pages. Just because the user didn't convert at the first instance doesn't mean that if you gave them another option or another way in, that they're not going to kind of interact better with your brand. And run lists kind of across platforms. So in each of the platforms, you can, if you utilize UTM parameters, you can use these parameters to build lists based on kind of the website URL. So the UTM parameters will pull into Google Ads. So if you've got a campaign set up in Facebook, if you say that it's a summer campaign and that's your campaign name in your UTM, in Google Ads, you can create a list based off of traffic source. So people that's viewed a page with the URL Facebook, because that's your traffic source, and people with that have been to a URL that's got summer, and that is your Facebook summer campaign that you're pulling in there. So you can pick up on kind of UTMs within the page URLs in each of the platform, and that just allows you to identify specific audiences that you've pulled out in Facebook and bring them over into Google Ads. So that kind of ties everything back together, and you can cross target based on these audiences that maybe that they engaged previously with your Facebook page. If they're searching then in Google, actually that's a great audience to kind of pick up on. And like I say, you can use your audiences to prospect new customers. So Google, Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, you can all create what we know as lookalike audiences. Sometimes it's called lookalike, sometimes it's called similar, sometimes it's called act-alike, but they all work in exactly the same way. So they take your original audience list, so it might be website visitors, it might be cart abandonment, and essentially, like I say, they go out and they find users who fit the same behaviors and the same patterns and the same interest as this original seed list, and find new prospects, and that's a really great way to kind of get new customers. And we see it work. So we can see down here the difference in purchase rates. So for for video views, so people who haven't been to your website, we don't really see kind of any kind of conversion. Remarketing, obviously, biggest conversion rate or purchase rate, but the lookalike audience, it's not you know, it's really good in comparison. So it's about finding kind of the measurement, and again, the bottom one, prospecting for interests, really low purchase rate. But if you layer that with actually people who look like your original customers, then actually that starts to shoot up. So it's a really great way to kind of increase conversion rates and prospect at the same time. So things to keep in mind: always be subtle when it comes to your approach, because people do have concerns about privacy. So you don't want to be too direct that you've been to my website and I know this. So try and keep that quite light. There are audience threshold sizes, so depending on which platform, you're going to have an audience size of a certain amount, and they're ever-growing changes. So you know, there's changes around cookies and third-party collection, so there's going to be changes, so just try and keep on top of that. In terms of kind of moving through the funnel, so there's just a couple of examples here. So if you start in Google search, the user visits your website, then what you're doing is dropping them into a list. They might be watching a video on YouTube, and then later they return to your website. And you can do it across different platforms as well. So if the user starts in Facebook, you can capture them via UTM, remarket to them then when they're searching on Google as well. So to get started, outline what your remarketing objectives are. Make sure that your privacy policy has been up to date. Each platform has different nuances, and it also ties back into kind of the GDPR and data collection. Once you've got your privacy policy up to date, install the pixel or tracking code, depending on kind of which platform you're in. And if you're already in kind of Facebook and you've got convert campaigns running, then you've got the pixel already in place anyway, hopefully. And then you can start creating your audiences. If you want to an email database, you can upload this, and then you can build your campaigns and start assigning audiences and budgets and targets. And just in time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Holly. There's just one hopefully quick question just from John. He was asking about how quickly should you start remarketing, and is remarketing after 2 months too late?
So it really depends on your product and kind of the life cycle of it. So if you've got kind of a long sales process, then actually no, after 2 months you can still kind of pick up. Also, if it's like a fast moving good that someone's going to kind of keep purchasing, or if you've, for example, got a lot of different products that the user, okay, you might have missed the boat on them buying kind of a chair from you, but actually later down the line, they might want a table or they might want a lamp. So it really depends on kind of each individual situation. If it's that they've missed the end of the free trial, you might have missed the boat. You could test the waters. They might still be in the market, but it really depends on your individual kind of product and service.
Okay, cool. I hope that answers your question, John. Thank you so much, Holly. That was great. Again, any questions or anything like that, head over to Twitter and tweet us, and Holly will be able to answer any of those that come through.